Hi guys, this is gsnmon.com and I'm here with the Apple iPhone 7 for a full review. This is the 4.7-inch version of the Apple flagship of the year 2016 and we're here for a full review. This product was announced in early September and it was launched quickly afterwards. And this is the smaller version. There's also a bigger version with a dual camera. That one is called the iPhone 7 Plus. We have the iPhone 7. So it starts at a price of $649 for the 32GB model. Then it goes to $749 or $849 if you want to get 128 or 256GB of storage. There is no more audio jack. This is a waterproof phone. It has optical image stabilization and no more mechanical home button, but more about that in the following minutes. The handset is available in black, silver, gold, rose gold or jet black. And also you should know that design wise it's basically the same format as the predecessor. One of the big changes are the moved antenna lines. They're no longer here and here. They've been moved towards the edges as we've seen preempted by the Meizu Pro 6 handset. This would be a unique phone if Apple did this for the first time. It's actually the third time around we've seen this format. Okay, so what's changed from before? There is no audio jack here at the bottom and there is no mechanical button. This is only a touch button that simulates the mechanical aspect with the Taptic engine. It feels weird at first, but then you get used to it and you'll forget what you're using here. As far as the measurements go, 7.1mm in thickness, exactly the same thickness as the iPhone 6s, and it weighs 138 grams, which is 5 grams less than the predecessor. It opts for an unibody aluminum design with a very rounded edge, actually so rounded that I found myself dropping the phone quite a bit. Luckily it dropped on carpet surfaces, so it did not have damage. The grip is reasonable, the build is great, and one-hand usage is also excellent. Other than that, if you want to really tell between the iPhone 6s and the 7, you can check out the earpiece. It's a bit wider this time on the newer model. We got a slightly rounded glass panel at the front. If you really look closely, got a camera bump here. The buttons are quite comfy, and another thing that I noticed is that the SIM tray takes a bit more pushing than usual to get inside because of the waterproofing. Yes, you've heard right. Apple now offers the iPhone 7 with the waterproofing IP67, resilient to water splashes and dust. It's a comfy design, familiar and premium, and that's all you have to say about it. Now, as far as the display is concerned, it's a 4.7-incher with an IPS LCD panel and the already classical resolution of 1334 over 750 pixels, the resolution of the predecessors, Retina HD, widescreen LED backlit, and with a wide range of colors, also dual domain pixels and ION strengthened glass and oleophobic coating. Of course, we still get 3D touch here, but in a more expanded version with added options, like you can add a widget here, for example, and more and more apps have received support for 3D touch, as you can well see right here. Okay, so aside from 3D touch and the fact that on paper were promised 25% extra brightness from the predecessor, let's actually check out a video and see what we're dealing with here. So this is our usual test clip. Let's turn down the volume and actually enjoy these white colors and brightness. So we're dealing with great color choice, realistic calibration, bright image, crisp image, great contrast, and deep black in spite of this being an IPS, also wide view angles. Okay, and the quality is assured. The pixels are of the RGB stripes variety. You don't have to believe my word because we have all of those here. So let's check out the quality of the screen. Here we go. These are the pixels I mentioned before. This is the pixel setup, and we achieved in the lux meter test 532 lux units, which is very good, but it doesn't set any records, and it's not uniform because we also achieved 486 or 483 in other areas of the screen. At least these results beats the HTC 10 and iPhone SE, but scores below the two predecessors, iPhone 6s and iPhone 6, keep that in mind, as well as the Galaxy S7 Edge. Now the screen obviously has its own settings, so let's go there. So auto brightness, there is night shift that makes everything more yellowish, eliminates blue light so you can sleep better, auto lock, raise to wake, this is a new feature, text size and view either standard or zoomed, and that race to wake feature will be exemplified right now. So this is a new function. The phone sits on the table, you want to see what's happening, you take the phone in your hand, you press nothing, and it feels it's being watched. So basically when you raise it, the accelerometer or gyroscope will feel it and will activate it. Anyway, that's the whole thing we have to say about the screen. It's a solid display, it's bright, it's crisp, and that's basically all. Of course, you also have pick and pop in emails and other such things. So you go here and you tap harder to enter it, and that's that. So okay display. And now as far as the performance goes, we're dealing here with a phone that opts for the Apple A10 Fusion quad-core CPU, a 64-bit unit clocked at up to 2.3 GHz. The GPU is a 6-core Power VR. There is also 2 GB of RAM on this model, and storage version 32, 128 or 256 GB. The phone is lag-free, although I found the iOS 10 animations to be a bit too long for my taste. Performance is excellent and games run like a charm, including the recently launched, well, not so recent anymore, Riptide GP Renegade. Which, an interesting fact here, once you start playing it for the first time, it's already set to ultra graphics. Other phones start from a medium level, then you have to customize. No, this one goes to the maximum level of details, frame rate and so forth. So let's play a game. This is not the only game that runs like a charm. You can play the game that Apple used to demo the functions of the phone. It's the one related to the Wizard of Oz. It's called Oz. And it really highlights the GPU abilities of the phone. Excellent controls, pretty responsive. Even on the higher end Android devices, I've seen some hit and miss when it comes to the controls, but this one doesn't have any problem. Nice looking water, lighting effects, textures, frame rate, lighting, whatever you need, it's here. Interesting side mention, temperature gets a bit high in gaming. But before temperature, we must talk about the performance. So let's talk about the benchmarks. We have them here and we have huge scores. First place in 3D Mark ISO Unlimited. First place in Antutu, actually surpassing the OnePlus 3 by 25k points, so that's crazy. And of course also first place in many other benchmarks. You take your pick, GFX Bench, Geekbench, whatever you want, we have it, and the scores are simply huge. The temperature was a pretty strange affair. We achieved a pretty okay 38.6 degrees Celsius in Riptide GP Renegade after running it, and after running the intensive benchmark GFX Bench, 41.8 degrees Celsius. I also noticed a slight overheating, or let's say just heating, after using the camera or apps and switching from apps for a longer time. Now the battery. This phone comes with a 1960 mAh battery unit. It's an increase from the predecessor by quite a bit, around 200 mAh or so. On paper we are promised 2 hours more than the predecessor, and in our test, let's see how we did. So we achieved here a time of 12 hours. Let's actually see what the time was. So let's look it up. Okay, so video playback time, 12 hours and 25 minutes. It's excellent, surpasses the iPhone 6s by 20 minutes, the Xiaomi Mi 5 as well, but somehow scores below the iPhone SE and the Galaxy S7. We don't have PC Mark on iOS, but I have to say that with regular daily usage, you can easily reach 1 day or 1 day and a half. During the week I tested the phone, I only charged it twice, and I'm a pretty intensive user. Now the charging of the phone is done in 2 hours 34 minutes, which is long for a modern flagship, and a bummer is the lack of wireless charging. Of course, you also have a low power mode in the settings area, but there's nothing fancy here. You activate it, it reduces power and usage of Hey Siri, mail fetch, refresh and so forth, and there's that. So the battery is solid and it's an upgrade for the predecessor. When it comes to acoustics, there is no audio jack here, and we have lightning earpods this time, plus an adapter bundled. We also have stereo speakers, so the earpiece is now a speaker, and this one here is the other speaker. This one is only for symmetry purposes. So speaker here with great stereophony, and this model is supposed to be twice as loud as the predecessor according to Apple, but let's test this and not believe their word. Apple Music has a new interface. It's cleaner, it's better organized. It now includes lyrics, and these are the subsections with a very capable radio, search, and that's it. Okay, so now let's actually listen to some music and see how the stereo speakers are behaving. Okay, so the conclusions: we have a very loud experience, also very clear, possibly the best bass I've ever heard. There is lots of vibration of the backside of the phone when you're playing music, and also the sound is crisp, all the notes are perfectly rendered. A thing to notice here is that this speaker outputs more bass and this one the other frequencies. Now let's see what the decibel meter has shown and the values achieved by this handset. So we reached 88.1 decibels. This is done with the speaker at the bottom, and 84.6 decibels with the speaker at the top of the device, which is very good. I'm talking about a bigger value, and luckily there is no muffling if you put the handset on a flat surface. So with these results here, we surpassed the iPhone 6's 85 decibels and the iPhone 6s 81.7 decibels, but we score below the Galaxy Note 4's 89.5 decibels. Now the headphones, they're basically the same Apple EarPods from the past years. As you can see, not many changes here, but the real change is the connector. It's a lightning connector. This time you don't have a audio connector because there's no audio jack. The quality stays the same, and you also get a bundled adapter lightning to audio jack. So that's it. So the headphones deliver excellent noise isolation. They're loud, they're clear, they're comfy, and have a very good bass. If you really want to find a modification and a difference between these headphones and the older ones, I have to say that maybe they're just a bit louder, but not more, just a bit louder. Now, if you want to tweak settings in the audio department, there's not much here, aside from a small equalizer with options like this: acoustic, electronic, flat, hip-hop, and etc. Volume limit and sound check, and that's it. So solid acoustics all the way around. Some people may regret the acoustics if they have a kick-ass pair of audio jack based headphones. Anyway, but we have the small adapter here for that. Enough with the acoustics, time to talk about the camera. So at the back we have a 12 megapixel shooter slightly protruding with a quad LED flash, and this time with optical image stabilization. Previously the 4.7-inch iPhones did not have stabilization, only the bigger ones. f1.8 aperture, which means more light is being caught by the camera, 6-element module and white color capture, as well as 4K video. The front camera for the selfies has a 7 megapixel resolution, up from the 5 megapixel of the predecessor. Now let's close all the apps so there's no bias, so to say, and open up the camera app and see how it does. Okay, so here it is. It fired up pretty fast, and the interface is quite typical to what we've seen over the past year or years on iOS devices. So minimalistic and straightforward. These are the effects. We got a timer, we got the live photos here, which means 1 photo and 3 seconds of video, HDR and the flash, and of course the modes: panorama, square, photo, video, slow-mo, time-lapse, and that's it. There's also this brightness slider which we can play with, and the photo capture is very fast, as you can well see. The zoom is quite fluid, focus happens very fast, as well as the exposure change, which may be a bit exaggerated sometimes. Okay, so that's about it, and time to go to the options, because we have a few extras related to the camera, which we have to find here somewhere. Photos and camera. Here we go. You can tweak the recording of the video in Full HD 30 or 60 frames per second, or 4K at 30 frames per second. Slow motion also tweakable at Full HD 120 frames per second or 720p at 240 frames per second. Now, as far as the gallery goes, we have quite a few pictures here. We have indoor ones, outdoor ones, daytime and nighttime ones. Let me start with the indoor ones, taken inside a restaurant. They're pretty crisp, they offer good details and colors. We also have pictures of food, good close-ups, everything is crisp and clear here. However, some of the shots feel a bit washed out for no reason whatsoever. There is a layer of white on top of them, as if the exposure has been messed up for some reason. It may be the camera catching too much light indoors, but in the end I was happy with the food texture, although as it so happens the iPhone 6s also took pictures of food and they seemed only a bit better. Now we went into the sun on a sunny October day, and these are the shots we caught with a pretty solid HDR that you can see here. This is a very pragmatical camera with pretty realistic colors, so realistic that you may call them cold colors. And this is the zoom test, so this is the tree's actual distance from us, zoom level 1, 2 and 3, still with pretty good details. Now, of course, it's time to go to the close-ups after a series of more shots of monuments with a pretty clear blue sky, slightly over-sharpened, but only slightly. Come on, this is the stuff you see in Photoshop, not the real sky. So, once again, a bit of over-sharpening, but nothing major. So, close-ups, excellent here, great texture of the metal. You can really almost feel the metal in your hand, courtesy of this excellent close-up. Okay, landscape shots and of course the live photos that show a moving object for about 3 seconds. Some selfies, but the sun was too strong here, so the later selfies are better. The background is a bit blurred, but the skin and hair are the ones that matter, and I'm pretty happy with what I'm seeing here. Although if I have to be honest, I've seen better on the phones I've tested recently. For example, the Xperia XZ produced better results, and the OnePlus 3 was actually inferior to this one, unless you catch a really good angle or light for it. As I said before, good details in landscape shots, which I'm showing here. We also have a panorama here somewhere, here it is. Excellent clarity and pretty generous 16,352 pixels over 3628. It's a 10 out of 10 panorama quality wise. What I noticed is that this camera, although I called its colors cold, the reds are excellently rendered here. More colors available here, some more close-ups, great exposure, focus, white balance and details. Although the clarity is excellent, if you go back and compare these shots to the ones of the iPhone 6s, you'll be hard pressed to find differences and upgrades, so I can't say that this is a huge jump from the last year model, and I also cannot say that it can defeat any of the big shots from this year in a head-to-head test. For example, I feel that the Galaxy S7 is superior to it, the LG G5 and the HTC 10 have better colors, but the clarity is good all around. And also the 20 megapixel shooters on the market get more details than this phone. So in the end it remains solid quality, typical for an iPhone, but it cannot defeat the other rivals from this year, and it's only slightly better than the predecessor when it comes to, let's say, selfies and maybe more accurate colors. Those are daytime shots. Let's move to nighttime shots, which we have here, and photo without a flash, photo with a flash, excellent quad LED flash, excellent clarity, brightness. The street lights are well rendered, sometimes they have too big halos, not the case here. Even if you zoom in, you'll have great details and perfect textures of these monuments. This is a nighttime restaurant, and just check out the chairs, just look at the chairs. So one may say it's a cloudy day, not night, they're that good. In spite of me praising so much this camera, it still remains below what the HTC 10 achieved in similar conditions, but not by much, by 10% maybe. At least it beats a phone with a similar, let's say, format or diagonal, the Sony Xperia X Compact, and luckily it doesn't have any bluish hue around the edges. It can fight the HTC 10 and the Galaxy S7, but in the end it may lose by only a little bit, not by much. Also, I feel that it's superior to the iPhone 6s that during the night time produce some strange hues. Now on the video front we get Full HD, 30 or 60 frames per second, 15 megapixel bitrate and a 4K clip to boot, as well as the slow motion videos. I'm going to start with the stabilization clip. So we're checking out the stabilization by descending a long flight of stairs, and surprisingly the camera seems to lose a bit of focus with each vibration of each step I take, which is something I haven't seen before on iPhones. It's a strange finding. The actual image stabilization is good because none of the other videos exhibited such problems, but be careful with your step. Each step you take on a descending stair at least may make the focus shift a little bit. I've seen better focus, and I'm pretty pleased with this slow motion capture. As usual, Apple has the best slow motion of the market, although the Nexus 6P also did some fine slow motion capture. Okay, let's see more videos here. Maybe this one. It was a very windy day, and I have to say that the microphone faced it decently. This is a Full HD clip. We also have a 4K one. Pretty nice exposure here. Many phones would have had a problem with this one. Not the case here. This is the 4K video. It's perfect. It's mint. It absolutely has no problem. Okay, so moving forward, we also have excellent object tracking and great focusing, and a pretty okay front camera. We also used it to film something, go something like this. So here we are. Pretty solid, let's say, stabilization, although it's not the case. For a front camera with Full HD video, it's handling it decently. So everything is solid on the camera front, aside from that strange stabilization when descending stairs. It's superior to the HTC 10 and less burned than the LG G5. It can face the Galaxy S7 bravely, and it can also fight the predecessor quite nicely. Low light videos, time to check them out. They go like this. Pretty good stabilization because we were walking, no stairs this time. Clear image, great lighting, okay street lights, and even a good zoom at some point. I have rarely seen such bright nighttime videos, and it's one of the top 3 low light filming phones on the market. So now that we're done with the camera, and by the way, this low light capture is superior to the LG G5s, time to go to other aspects, like for example the Safari browser. Here is the Safari browser, and let's load up gsndom.com, see just how fast it is on the device. It's instantly loading, which is confirmed by the incredible benchmarks we did. For example, SunSpider has a result that's so good I would dare to call it obscene. It's obscenely good, if you allow me to say that. So let's confirm it. Here it is. Usually we get a score here of around 500 or 400 if the phone is really a rocket. This time 189, and the lower the better, which confirms an excellent browser. Now the keyboard is this one, typical virtual one, well spaced and comfy on this small screen by current standards. On the connectivity front, we're all covered up with modern options, typical for an Apple device: Wi-Fi A, B, G and AC, Bluetooth 4.2, NFC, Lightning at the bottom. Apparently there is a module here of the LTE category 12 kind, nano SIM card slot, GPS, GLONASS and VO LTE, AirPlay, HD voice and Wi-Fi calling. And speaking of calling, everything is loud and clear here, and we have loud calls, clear calls, and also pretty good earpiece. Actually one of the best earpieces I've heard on mobile devices lately. Great noise cancelling and a great microphone. And we also did a speed test, and let's see what came out of that. These are the values we achieved. We reached up to 105 Mbps in download via Wi-Fi, 25 in upload, so we're doing fine. And in LTE, 90 Mbps download, 45 in upload, so once again, a pretty fine and solid result. A great acoustic experience in calls, and now time to discuss iOS 10. So the latest iOS is available on the iPhone 7 and on the compatible models from the iPhone 5 upwards, and supposedly it brings hundreds of changes. Among the changes we can find the fact that there is no more swiping to unlock. Now you just press the home to open, which is strange. I've been swiping to unlock for years now. And there's also the option to pick up and look at it, which I mentioned before. And then if you swipe right into the lock screen, you go to the today screen, which is a novelty here, basically a collection of your widgets. You can see app suggestions here, weather, maps, stocks, mail, and you can edit this and add more widgets from third parties, apps and so forth. Okay, 3D touch is still here. It's also enabled for notifications now, you can 3D touch them. And the control center has evolved. There are several colors, hue changes here, and now it has 2 windows, one for the connectivity options and other shortcuts, and one strictly for the music. Now the biggest change is related to iMessage, and iMessage here has a variety of features, actually a huge amount of features. So let me start off by saying that it has its very own store. which is this one here, and I downloaded these stickers. And aside from stickers, you can go here and download a ton of stuff, even games. So it's very own store, which means it has evolved a lot. You can tell people what music you're listening to, you can share emojis, and you can also do a special series of taps letting them know what's up. You can draw with a single finger, change the color, doodle around, doodle on your own videos and photos, and let's see what else. You can send a heartbeat by tapping and holding two fingers, and if you drag it down, you'll also be able to and if you drag it down, you'll also be able to show breaking heart. Okay, we got rid of that. And if you want to write something, there are several cool options to apply. Keep this pressed, you can slam, you can write it louder, more gently. This is the slam, this is the loud, gentle, invisible ink, which has to be swiped to be seen. And these are the cool screen options. We got send with balloons and other crazy disco enhanced options, confetti, lasers. Basically you're trolling people with these options. That's what iMessage is about now. Okay, we're not finished here because there are even more options to play with. So aside from the tabs and so forth, aside from the store, it can feel what needs to be emojified, believe it or not. So if I say cats are cute and I go like this, cats has been emojified and highlighted. So that's one of the features. Okay, I'm done with this. Let's go to the other things, like photos, for example. So in photos, you can now find stuff contextually. So if I write drink, it spotted the drink among the pictures. And if I write car, it found this little toy car, so it's able to scan with artificial intelligence and find what you're looking for. It also sees the places you've been to and categories that various places fit into. A new feature is called memories, so you can create a memory of your past week or year, and it's like HTC Zoe, only with a flashier interface and design. Now, as far as Siri is concerned, it has been open to developers and can access third-party apps, like you can order an Uber thanks to it, or send cash via various applications. The interface as a core has stayed the same ever since iOS 7, so visually not many changes here. Swipe down for notifications and you can interact with them here. As you can see, I'm doing that with a 3D touch aspect. Okay, other than that, Maps is able to remember contextually where you've been. It makes suggestions that are fit to the place you're at now and makes it easier to find places. Another cool feature in Maps is that you can find your parked car and where you left it, and there's also the option to proactively suggest your destination. There's also the new Home app, which is finally finalized, so to say. You can control your thermostat, your security camera, locks and lights in the house, all via your automation option and so forth. You can also delete the pre-installed apps this time, so if you slightly press them like this a bit longer, you can delete your calculator, podcast, FaceTime, and whatever bothers you, which wasn't available before. There's also predictive text now that interprets locations, contacts. There are 100 new emojis, and the clock, the standard clock, has a new feature called bedtime, which creates a profile for you and an ideal sleeping pattern, which is quite nice. So in iOS 10, the home button is now only a touch button and is no longer a mechanical button. It doesn't have to relate to iOS 10. I'm talking about the iPhone 7 here, so it's not mechanical. It's a touch button that has a taptic motor below it, and it simulates the vibration of a real button. Why did I mention this? Because now, in order to unlock the screen, you have to press it and not just touch it as one would expect. So the first press activates the phone and the second opens it up, so two gestures here. You can of course get rid of that once the fingerprint is set and you only touch it with a special feature. So iPhone unlock, secure with a password, use code, verify it. It will say that it's too easy probably. Okay, so again. And now we can unlock the phone using the fingerprint. And you can also buy stuff from the store using it. Here we go. Let's see what happens if you use the wrong finger. that happens. And once again, you can unlock it just by touching if you set it up from a special option, which I have to find. Takes a bit of doing, but here we go. So we go here. Come on, home button should be here somewhere. 3D touch, nope. Switch control, button shapes, voiceover. Voila, home button, rest finger to open, and you're back to the setup. Just touch it and it should open. Let's try it again. There is a fine line between actually pressing it and just touching it, but we've reached it. Anyways, the multitasking is the same. You'll double tap this home button, double press it to trigger the windows, and you can pick at them by pressing with 3D touch on the side of the screen. What else we got here? The fingerprint scanner is pretty fast, I have to say, and the animations feel a bit too long for a person who has been using clean Android for a long while now. The pre-installed apps that I counted, there's 32 of them, quite a few. You can delete them as I showed you earlier. The basic packages here. We got mail, we got a calendar, we got photos, which I kept showing you, got a camera, maps, clock and weather. There's wallet, there's notes with the option to use bullet points and whatever else you want, and a variety of stuff to edit. There's reminders, stocks, videos, books, iTunes Store, App Store and health with a slightly modified design, more playful now than before. And in photos you can choose a pic and have a ton of options to edit it. You can tweak its arrangement, you can also change its filters, light, color, black and white, and markup is now available here instead of the email application. Okay, now we're totally done. This is what iOS 10 is all about, and now it's time to offer you the verdict regarding the iPhone 7. So on the Pro side, we got a premium design with premium materials, a solid and bright screen, godlike performance, I mean that, super battery, nice audio, great pictures and videos, and a pretty bright flash, as well as a nice iMessage set of features, the new features I mean. It's a waterproof phone with stereo acoustics. And now let's see the cons, because those were the pros. There's a bit of focus loss during the optical image stabilization test, and the camera, to be honest, it does not break any records. It's simply very good, but it cannot beat any of the big phones this year, aside from the minor aspect here and there. The home button takes a long while to get used to, I'll give you that much. And it's also a small phone by current standards, 4.7 inches, when everybody's making 5.5 inch phones. There are long animations in iOS 10, it's the same design as the previous two phones with minor changes. It gets a bit too hot sometimes. The lack of audio jack is not so well received by many people, and it feels like an atypical choice. And that's about it as far as the iPhone 7 is concerned here at gsndon.com. It's not a gigantic upgrade from the iPhone 6s, maybe just the performance. It has a solid camera, it handles multimedia like a champ, and it made some controversial choices which will be mirrored in future generations of iPhones, iPads, and who knows what else. In the end, I advise you to keep the iPhone 6s for one more year, because this one is, let's say, 25% better than that phone, and who wants a gadget that's 25% better than their gadget aside from a hardcore fan? So the iPhone 7 is an iPhone for the hardcore fan. This is it from gsndon.com. Bye bye.